Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Pinchas. It is also going to be Shabbos Mavarchin. We are going to say the special prayer for the coming month of Av. This Shabbos is going to be a full week before Rosh Chodesh Av, but this is still the appropriate day to say that prayer. And as we are in this period of the 3 weeks, also known as Bein HaMitzorim, a time of remembering tragedies and calamities past, and as we're living through our challenges now, that this time feels particularly apt, and I think that we are able to think of the events in the past and as they are resonating in the present. And we are dedicating all our learning here to the safe and speedy release of every single hostage still in Gaza, and the safety and success of all of the soldiers in the IDF. And the subject, the title of this week's talk is actually inspired by a large poster that I saw with the pictures of hostages and prayers for their return. And the slogan on it was "Turn the horror into hope." And I reflected that really the messages of the Sedra of Pinchas, and really for all that we are remembering challenging times throughout our national story, we are a people of hope. It's not by accident that the national anthem of Eretz Yisrael is Hatikva. This is something, our hope in redemption, our hope that tomorrow is going to be better, our confidence in our mission that can give us the extra koach, the extra energy that we need in order to get through these times and come out on the other side stronger and better. I think this is all part of the message, and really it is something that is just very pertinent to now. So turning to the messages in the Sedra of Pinchas. The Sedra opens actually with the fleshing out of certain details of an event that happened in last week's Sedra, at the end of last week's Sedra of Bolok, when unnamed people, the 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 two people who were committing adultery in front of the whole community, were killed by Pinchas. And if we look at the actual last paragraph, um, and this is chapter 25, verse 7. Vayar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, and Pinchas the son of Elazar the son of Aaron HaKohen saw, Vayakom mitoch ha'eda, vayikach romach beyoda, and he got up in the middle of the congregation, and he took a spear in his hand. Vayavo achar ish Yisrael el hakuba, vayidkor es shenehem es ish Yisrael ve'es ha'isha el kovasa ve'te'otzer ha'magefa me'al b'nei Yisrael. And he took a spear and pierced the spear through both of them, the Israelite man and the woman, right through her lower abdomen. The plague then ceased from the children of Israel. A total of 24,000 died in the plague. And then, after this extrajudicial act of murder, effectively, that stopped the plague, and we can see as we begin this week's Sedra that Pinchas is, while we are not getting a blanket approval of all extrajudicial acts, Pinchas is given a covenant of peace as a reward. His actions are vindicated, and his actions actually saved lives, because a plague that had taken 24,000 people, had killed 24,000 people, stopped as a result of Pinchas's courage and presence of mind to do what he did. And we have a very unusual feature in this week's Sedra, that we have an end of line break in the middle of a posuk. So if you see where my finger is, this says Vayehi Acharei Hamagefa, and then there's an end of line break. There's a whole break here, a whole break, and then the verse continues, Vayomer Hashem El Moshe ve'el Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Lemo, and this is something that is very unusual, and it gives us pause. And I think that the first message of hope, not horror, that from the horror of the distressing events at the end of last week's Sedra, the extreme immorality in front of the whole community, this public act of degradation, of public act of deliberately flouting the laws of the Torah, and the consequences that ensued, that we have a cessation of the plague. And there is actually a Rashi that talks about why, because immediately after this the end of line break that says after the plague, Hashem commands a census. And the question is, why does Hashem command a census at this time? So Rashi actually suggests two answers. Okay, so we'll look. This is chapter 26, verse 1. Vayehi achrei hamagefa. Mashal leroy shenichnasu ze'evim. It's compared a parable to a shepherd where wolves come in letoch edro, in the midst of his flock, v'hargu bahen, and kills some sheep among them, v'hu moneh osan leda minayin hanosaros, and he counts them to know how many are left. And that's the first explanation. So what happens though is that it's not that the people who have died in the plague are counted, the people who are left are counted. So a question can be asked, why is it done that way? And an answer suggested by Rabbi Moshe Hormornik in Short Vort 2 is that this was a way of focusing not on the people who had for some reason succumbed to the plague, but rather focusing on the people who had survived, who had a merit and were therefore able to continue. They were going into the land of Israel. So this was a way of going forward, not looking backwards, going forward, not looking at the loss, but looking rather at the people who were going to continue, the people who are going to take the inheritance of the land of Israel, the future hope of the people. So I think this is the first aspect of hope, not horror, but hope. And I think that certainly with these kind of attitudes, we can help turn horror into hope. And also just looking at the courage and bravery of Pinchas to rise up, to understand that the needs of the moment require brave, bold actions. And again, as we're watching the events as unfolding now in the land of Israel, decisive actions that need to be taken, and the miracles, thank God, so many miracles that enable these actions to be successful. And sometimes it takes an extra detail to make us appreciate the miracles even more. When we think back, it feels like so long ago, the 12-day war, as it's being called, where Israel undertook missions to Iran and thank God achieved amazing successes, and all of the aeroplanes returned home, all of the people, all of the pilots were, thank God, unharmed. And when one thinks of it as a whole, you think you appreciate the miracle. And a few days ago, I read an article about how one plane actually experienced an in-flight mechanical failure. One of the engines wasn't refueling properly, the fuel wasn't going in there, and that could have meant either crashing in enemy territory, they were over Iran at the time, all uh, having to bail out and land in enemy territory. And thank God there was a mid-air refueling uh, operation that took place that was successful, and the complexity and the possibility of so many things going wrong in undertaking such a challenging mechanical task to refuel mid-air flying at very fast speeds. I can't even begin to imagine the engineering the challenges in order to achieve that and achieve it successfully. And really, this is something that again helps us go from horror to hope. We turn the horror of what we're facing into the hope as we see the hand of Hashem protecting us. And again, this is echoes in the present of what we're seeing in the Sedra of the Torah that we read this Shabbos. And the Sedra then goes on to focus on the inheritance of the land of Israel. And again, this is such a eternal and crucial part of our identity. And this, as we are fighting this existential battle on 7 fronts, 7+ fronts, this again, this is a way that we can move from horror to hope. We are part of a historical, eternal destiny. And this is what we're doing now. We are embracing that inheritance. We are defending, with Hashem's help, that inheritance. And we are really, I think, bringing the words of the Torah into our daily lives as the heroes in the army, as the heroes of the people who live in Israel, as the heroes of Jewish people all over the world, standing up for the truth. We are echoing the words of the Torah as the people take the inheritance, the instructions are given for the inheritance of the land of Israel, that this 40-year detour or 38.5 year, in fact, detour in the wilderness is coming to an end. We are approaching the land of Israel. We are given the land of Israel as our inheritance. And this is the way that we are going to continue the hope. And the inclusion of the conversation of the daughters of Zelophehad is another aspect of this message of hope. And this comes in chapter 27. If we go from verse 1, Vatikravna benos Zelophehad ben Chefer ben Gilad ben Mocher ben Menashe lemishpachos Menashe, and the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Chefer, the son of Gilad, the son of Mocher, the son of Menashe, to the families of Menashe ben Yosef, the son of Yosef, ve'ele shemos benosov, and these are the names of his daughters: Machla, Noah, V'chogla, Umilka, V'sirtza. So these 5 daughters of Zelophehad achieve immortal standing because they stand before Moshe Rabbeinu and they point out that they are, for 5 girls, they have no brothers, their father had no sons, and the laws of inheritance until that point were just providing for the passing of the tribal inheritance through the male line. And so in a situation where there were only women born into the family, what was the situation to be? And as these 5 daughters of Zelophehad, and according to an opinion, Zelophehad was the wood gatherer who was executed because of his sin of the capital offense of breaking Shabbat. And his daughters say, why should our father's inheritance be lost just because he had no sons? And they are showing, in spite of all of the discouraging events that have happened, even though the women are going to go into the land of Israel, the women of the generation that came out of Egypt, that the decree against all of that generation entering the land of Egypt was was on the men, because it was the men who embraced the reports of or rather were very were very distressed and didn't want to go into the land of Israel after they heard the reports of the 10 scouts in the Sedra of Shalach Lecha. And the women show that they are going forward, they are wanting to clarify their position in that land, in a situation where there are no males in the family, and they receive the highest accolade from Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu has to ask, he doesn't know the answer, and Hashem responds, the daughters of Zelophehad have spoken correctly. And with this very dignified exchange, we can see again these 5 women who are not discouraged, they are not submissive, they're not too scared at all and they're not made to feel in any way that they're speaking inappropriately. Everything is very respectfully described. And again, this is a message of hope. This is a message of the continuity of the Jewish people, of the eternity of the connection of the Jewish people with the land of Israel. And I think in another event in this week's Sedra, which is the transfer of leadership from Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher, to Yehoshua. And the way, again, in which this is done, that Moshe Rabbeinu is, that we learn from the juxtaposition of that passage to the discussion with the daughters of Zelophehad and the whole concept of succession, that Moshe Rabbeinu feels that this is the time perhaps to ask Hashem, can his sons take over from his position? And Hashem responds, Yehoshua ben Nun is the type of person who is the suitable leader to take over. And there is no sign whatsoever. Once Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu this, there is no holding back, there is no sign of bitterness, but Moshe Rabbeinu embraces the word of Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu as Eved Hashem, the servant of Hashem, carrying out Hashem's instructions with 2 hands, even though he's asked to put 1 hand on Yehoshua as a sign of transfer of some of Moshe Rabbeinu's splendor, he actually puts both hands on Yehoshua. And again, this incredible role model of service of Hashem, of wanting to go forward, even if Moshe Rabbeinu personally is not going to go and continue as leader, or even go into the land as an ordinary person, as if that could ever happen. But still, this is most eloquent way to show us how to keep up that hope, the hope in the mission, the hope in the understanding that Hashem's actions, Hashem's requirements of us are for our best, whether we understand them or not. And I think that we link all of this from this week's Sedra. We hear that message of turning horror into hope and doing it in our present times. And please God, we should certainly see all our prayers be answered, and Moshiach, the redemption, the full redemption of the people of Israel coming speedily and in our time. Thank you very much for listening, and Shabbat Shalom.